Hey guys, George here and welcome back to my channel. If you've been watching any of my other videos, you probably would have heard this Mark V 25 somewhere in there. I use it all the time for recording and it's been one of my favorite amps since I bought it and reviewed it on this channel. Well, today I'm going to make a video talking about it, so if you've ever wanted to hear the sounds or wanted to learn how to dial in, this is a video for you, so stay tuned. Know anything about Mesa Boogie, they try to pack everything they can into their amps, and that's no exception with the Mark V. It is feature packed and it's an amazing amplifier. Ever since I bought it about 3 years ago, it's been a real workhorse for my channel and I can't imagine ever parting with it. I just want to quickly go through the different channels, all the knobs, what they do real quickly, and then I'll demonstrate as well how all the different knobs react with each other. This is also the 25 watt version, and although it's sitting on a 212 cab loaded with vintage 30s, I'm not using those today. I'm using the IR to go straight into my audio interface. For me, it's the easiest way to record, and yeah, I don't have to fuss with mic placement or anything like that, and it gets a great sound. Also to note, this is the 25 watt version. There's also a 35 watt and then a large one, I think a 100 watt version. So we're talking only about the 25 watt version today. I prioritize this, only 16 pounds, but still packs a punch. So you can think of this as a 2-channel amp. Both channels have an independent reverb around back. And the first channel has 3 settings that you can set it on. So it's a clean, fat, or crunch. The second setting has the Mark II C+, the Mark IV, and an extreme channel. I hesitate to call it like a rhythm channel and a lead channel because you can get rhythm channels and lead sounds from both. So they're really just very different flavors. And even in each one, they're very different, you know, within the 3 on there. So the 2 that are similar, clean and fat, are pretty similar. Just clean is a little bit lower gain, a little more glassy, while fat is still a relatively clean high headroom channel, but with a little bit more girth and breaks up a little sooner, but they both have tons of headroom. The crunch channel is a very mid-focused, almost Marshall-esque type channel, I guess, setting on the first channel, and yeah, there's way more gain. It's way louder than the other 2 as well, and you would never use them together because you have to have it's set. You can switch with the foot switch between channels 1 and 2, but you can't switch between the 3 settings on an individual channel. Okay, now onto channel 2, the Mark II C+ is probably the most famous Mesa Boogie amp. It is famous for all the 80s thrash metal bands that kind of cranked them up and used them for that sound, but it's just a really tight, liquidy sounding guitar amp. Yeah, it's super compressed and it sings really easy to get pinch harmonics out of there. It's a pleasure to play. I would say the Mark IV is similar, except for there's more gain on tap It's more saturated. It gives you what the Mark II C Plus gives you, but I think it's, I don't want to say it's not as tight, but it just gives you a bit more. Now, the Extreme channel gets rid of the negative feedback, and it gives you this really raw attack. It's a lot less compressed than the other two, but it's super in your face, super powerful. So yeah, very different from the Mark II and the Mark IV setting. Now let's take a look at the EQs. So starting with the different knobs here, gain is what you might think, a gain knob. Then you have a 3-band EQ, that's treble, mid, and bass. And this EQ comes before the preamp, so it's pre-gain. So they're essentially all gain knobs, if that makes sense. And I'll demonstrate in a moment. Then you have presence, which comes after. So that's just adding or removing some top end, and then your master. Then you have this 5-band EQ over here. This comes post the gain. So this will act like a EQ would traditionally act with. You have, the highs and lows, and then your mid. And so all the different frequencies are written down there, and it's like from lows to highs. So you can boost or take away as you please. And you can have the EQ on or off for either channel. They're switchable, and they're also foot switchable. And then you have a power selection mode, this being the 25 watt amp. You have a 25 watt or a 10 watt mode. Then you have the power and standby switch here. In the back, you have your IR where you can plug directly out. You have a choice of closed back or open back. You have the dual reverbs, like I said. You have a headphone jack. You have, there's just so much. You have an effects loop, which I'm currently plugged into. I always leave like a delay pedal in there at all times. So if I ever want delay, I have it in the effects loop. Something I get asked about all the time is how to dial this thing in. Don't worry, today I got you. I'm going to show you exactly how I do it and how you can get a good sound every time. There's not too much of a trick to it, but except knowing how the amp works and then using your ear to get it exactly where you want it. This is definitely a tweaker's amp, but it's not hard to get it to a sweet spot every single time you use it if you're starting from scratch even. So I'll show you how to do that. It really breaks my heart when people have a Mark V or a Mark VII and they want to get rid of it or they returned it because they didn't know how to get a good sound. So again, I got you. Let's take a closer look at the amp and I'll show you exactly how to dial it in. All right, so now we're taking a closer look at the amp, and a lot of people say, oh, if you put everything at 12 o'clock, it doesn't sound good. So 12 o'clock, if you look at the mid control though, on top it says mid, and then past 12 o'clock is actually a boost. So 9 o'clock is 12 o'clock for the mids on the clean channel. I don't know, don't ask me, that's how they did it. And then you have a presence, and then volume master, I'm keeping it at like 9 so I don't get evicted. And right, get a little delay on there. So there's tons of headroom, really nice clean stuff. Now, this is with the 5-band EQ disengaged. So the typical kind of shape that you want on this is that V. So you want the bass and the treble boosted, the 240 and the 220 at around 12, and then you want to drop some mids out, and it just gives it this nice. It gives it this really nice size, so it brings out those low frequencies to high frequencies, so your sound goes from here to here, if that makes sense. So that's what this graphic EQ really does. It just makes the sound like bigger. You get way more tight lows, which is important because this amp can get really flubby if you use this bass knob, which I wouldn't recommend too much on too many settings. I'll show you how that works later. And you get the high end to be really sparkly. So it's not. So yeah, that's the clean channel. And it just really. it just sounds good. Let's see if we can get it to distort. I'm gonna turn on the master. I'm gonna pump the gain up. So it's starting to give way a little bit, but that's with the gain dimed, and have to turn the master down. Now what you'll see here is the treble, the bass, the mids, these are all extra gain knobs. So if I turn the treble all the way up with the gain, and what you'll see here is the treble, the mids, the bass, these are actually all like extra gain knobs. So while it was barely, if I bring up the treble, you'll see. Now to my ear, that's not very pleasurable, but it's adding a lot of gain to the treble frequencies. But you can find a sweet spot there. And the mid is just a straight up boost. So if we get the mid all the way up, mind you, this is the clean channel, okay? But I'm using these other knobs to boost the gain frequencies into the preamp, allowing for more gain. So this actually sounds even better on the fat channel because it adds some more stuff. Notice the bass, not really touching it. You gotta leave this thing low, because as this amp starts to really ramp up, this bass knob is gonna add a lot of gain to the low bass frequency, and it gets flubby. So we don't want that. Okay. So here's the fat channel. This is my favorite clean. Yeah, this is my favorite kind of clean sound. But you can get some really nice distorted tones out of here. So again, I'm going to turn up the gain. See all. So you can get a really nice vintage sounding drive with that. And again, that's the fat channel. Now when we move over to the crunch, you're going to see an immediate huge jump in volume, and there's a lot of gain on tap. Gain all the way down here. Again, let's start kind of like at a 12 o'clock mode and see what we get. So again, you'll see the gain knob, of course it adds gain, but when you really want it to go off, you need to also add in the trebles and mids and kind of mix them to a pleasurable level to your ear, to your guitar. Again, I could set this where I like it for my Les Paul, and then I plug in a Tele and it's completely different. I might need less treble and a little bit more mids to flatten it out, or more gain. It just depends. But we've got the Les Paul in hand right now, so. I think what they hint at in the manual is this is the most like Marshall-esque channel. I'll say this channel, it's very gainy and it's very open, and the Mark channels are going to be a lot more focused and compressed sounding. So that's why you might want to use the crunch over the Mark channels. Let's see what happens when we turn off the EQ on this channel. So yeah, so that EQ, specifically setting it in that V, what it's going to do is, like, when it's off, you're kind of like walking through a hallway, and then when it's on, the hallway got like twice as large. It just, yeah, makes it sound much larger. Again. Okay, on to channel 2. So let's start with the Mark V. Again, let's do the whole 12 o'clock. And this one, it is actually, oh, let's demonstrate the bass here. Let's demonstrate why you don't want a lot of bass. So turn that EQ on as well. Now this is with a bunch of bass. It sounds horrible. The bass is completely flubbing out. You basically never want, on channel 2, on channel 1 you can mix in more bass, especially if you're just playing clean. But once the gain starts ramping up, you want that bass 9 o'clock or lower. I usually keep it mostly off. Oh, we haven't talked about the presence. We'll get there too. Presence is really that clarity, that sparkle. For me, it just, with this guitar, it makes sense to keep it around 12 o'clock. You can really take the top off with the presence knob though if you have a very trebly guitar. So this is a really useful control for that. When you dial the gain back, treble back, it takes more gain off. Same thing if I push mids. Then you have a really mid-forward distortion sound. So think of these gain knobs as just blend, or these EQ knobs are blending gain knobs together, and the possibilities are just endless. It's really exciting. For me, that's too mid-rangey and too honky. So something I like to do is I get a bass level of gain. And then I'll dial in my treble. Maybe I'll take the mids back. Yeah, it sounded too thin, so I want to fill it up with a little bit more ice. And this thing is versatile, man. You could do, you know, from sparkly, clean, high headroom stuff and use it as a pedal platform, to blues, to classic rock, to metal. I mean, definitely metal as well. I'm not really a metal player, but I tried to showcase some of those sounds in the intro, and hopefully you can see it's very convincing. Now, if you pump the gain up, gain on its own will add a lot more gain, but it won't fatten up the sound the way we want. Treble will add the bite, mid will add the body. That's fun. So let's compare that to the Mark IV, because for me they're very similar. Mark IV, a little bit more balls, a little bit tighter. And then let's kick it over to Extreme. So what Extreme does is cuts out the negative feedback. You get way less compression, way more punch attack in your face. Let's have a listen. And I didn't touch the volume or any of the settings, and you can see how much more it adds. This is really the balls to the wall setting. Let's see what happens if we keep the gain around 12 o'clock, but we take down the treble or mid knobs. So that treble takes a whole bunch of gain out and some of the top end and really gives it a different voice. So it almost sounds like a different setting. Let's see what happens when we take the mids down as well. Remember, this is still the extreme setting. It doesn't sound so extreme though, and the gain didn't move. So you have these really, really powerful treble and mid control knobs, and I promised I'd show you how to dial it in, and I am. The main thing to use is your ear. I can find the spot exactly where I think, oh, this looks good for this application, or this looks good for this application, or sounds good, I should say. Obviously, I'm looking at the knobs right now, but you can't tell by the way it looks. You have to play it. I can't say, well, just put them here and it'll sound good. Well, it might with this guitar for this application, but and there's tons of discussions online with people kind of helping out with this. But if you have one of these amps and you don't love it right away, trust me, if you have the patience, you will learn to love it, because as you can see, the possibilities are endless. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. It means a lot. If you liked it, go down there and smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't, it helps the channel out a lot as well. If you like the Mark V and you want to see more content like this or other gear related content, stay tuned, because there's plenty coming. So until next time, see ya.